Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. I'm your host. My name is Tyler. And on today's episode, we're going to dive into a buddy of mine. He's going to come on and share a little bit about his story and what helps him in recovery as well, too. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and give us Jamie. So Jamie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Jaime. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What qualifies me as being a drug addict or a person in long-term recovery? I pretty much did a lot of drugs. I mean a lot of drugs.
There you go.
And it came down to a point where, it wasn't getting any better. I think more mental, just darkness. The longer you kept going, the darker you got, the deeper you got, the more things you just average, just on a normal person wouldn't do. Just the things that we would traumatize ourselves, later down the road. Maybe not at that point, because I was so fucking high. I couldn't even talk straight sometimes, But, I guess where it got to was a point where, I was sitting on a bench, and it was either take this bullet out of my 45 and put it in my head, or walk right down the street, grab the rest of the drugs that were mine, and keep going, or make a plan and get sober. And that's what I did on that bench that day. I started calling places. I went and got mental health check because, apparently I was ready to commit suicide. Went there to the wonderful Roxbury rehab, where they were dual diagnosed, and I divulged into a whole bunch of trauma therapy for the first time, and it kind of opened up a lot of things of why I am the way I am, or why I react to certain things the way I react. And from there, I went to a halfway house where I spent a month or so. I was still kind of angry, trying to deal with all this trauma for the first time. Unfortunately, I was kicked out of that halfway house and landed on a bus stop in a town I've never been to. My sponsor, who I met just recently at, going to meetings and stuff at the halfway house, set me up at a wonderful Oxford house, which turned into a decision in my life where I had to stick to my guns. I ended up in Oxford House where everybody was getting high. Literally, I could go to the third floor and smoke crack. I could go to the second floor, get drunk, do some meth, and shoot some dope. Or I could stay on my bed bug-ridden couch on the first floor and keep to myself. And I can remember, it was kind of different because, the only people I knew in the town were people I met in, the meetings. And, I had phone numbers, so I was calling people and, going to meetings every day. And, it was crazy, my first week there, until, it took me, a week to realize, everybody's getting high and, I'm just trying to do me. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I remember the first guy walked through the door and was, smoking crack and sat down on a couch, tried to offer it to me. I'm like, dude, you need to get the fuck out of here. Allegedly, things might have happened where he literally ended up getting drug out that front door, but that, it was I really had to stick to where I wanted to be, dealing with people I was living with in a house that were all getting high. It was difficult, you know what I mean? I remember reaching out to the chapter presidents and stuff, and we went through 3 of them in 2 months because I was stalking them at work and trying to get them to come up and drug test and throw people out. But, and that kind of, brought me to a reality that, I wanted this more than I wanted to get high. And, it didn't matter what came across my, at that time frame looking back, it was kind of weird because, 99% of the times before this, time of trying to get sober, I didn't want it so bad. This time I wanted it so bad, it didn't matter what came across my way. I was living in a house that was shit. And then, over the course of a few months, the bills ended up being in my name. And then, I wasn't even, a house manager or anything. It was just kind of, dictated by a couple guys trying to run a house and get it back in order. And Oxford didn't want nothing to do with us. Or we were an out-of-charter house. And it was rough. I can't even tell you how many times I had to get into a physical altercation, allegedly, that, it was in my heart. I just didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back and get high anymore.
Well, it's crucial that you say that, right? Is because, here you are in a position where drugs and alcohol sometimes take us to the depths of hell, where it's like, man, like the only option is like I put a bullet in my brain, or like I gotta do something different. And that's a hard decision that like a lot of people don't understand, like when we make that decision. You know what I mean? Because to like the so-called normal person, it makes sense to just say, well, just put the drugs and alcohol down. But to like the people that are in an active addiction, it's like that's the hardest decision to make. Suicide, more or less, seems easier than just saying, okay, I'm done,
Yeah.
right? And like, but what I really want to touch on though is living in that environment, right? Because like I talk to guys about this all the time in recovery, where it's like it doesn't matter where you go,
No.
like this shit's gonna be around, and what it boils down to is, do you want to do different? And if you want to do different, you know, you're not going to do that. As hard as it is, you're not going to pick up. And like I know even for myself, I've been in those situations when I first got sober where somebody was doing a line in front of me, and I'm just like looking at it like, maybe I need to change my environment, right? And like luckily we have that support group, right? So when you were at the house, what was that driving force that was like, man, I can't go back there?
Driving force in me was I couldn't do it no more, man. Like, and to try and attempt suicide another time, it wasn't in me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, something just broke in me the day I decided to change. Like, I don't want to get fucking high. I don't want that misery. I don't want all this like childhood trauma coming back. I don't want all the drug trauma and like the things that like I'll never be able to talk about with anybody. They're just it's never gonna be talked about. But like those are the things like I don't want no more. Like I want to be a productive person that helps another individual get healthy, and on my path through like dealing with living with people that were getting high. Like within 3-4 months, they were either all out of the house or in rehab. But like it was an out of charter house, so like we were just trying to keep it going, and I wasn't going back home. I wasn't calling my mom. I wasn't calling my dad to ask for help, because like enough was enough. Like I had to like look myself in the mirror and say, you're the only person responsible for you. You're the only person that came in this world at that time, and it's time for you to just suck it up, Buttercup. And like I just didn't. There was no going back. Like, you know, my last 5 years, I can't even explain to you how many times like I bricks of dope and like ounces of crack and like ounces of meth, and I'm just like right to the toilet. Like I just don't want it. I look at it as something that has just destroyed my life, destroyed my relationship with my children, destroyed my soul in a sense. Like I sold parts of my soul at like different parts of like my addiction that like
we do.
One, we're not going to talk about. Two, we'll probably never open up and talk about it to anybody. Like, but it is what it is. But like I know how I can get those pieces back, or by like sharing a message of like, yeah, shit can get rough, like shit can get real. But if you truly want that decision to change your fucking life, it don't matter what's standing in front of you. If it's the devil himself, like you're gonna fight him. Like it's on. Like you gotta fight past that like sound decision of even that little tiny thing that might pop in your head. Because I can't say I've never had that thought of saying, fuck it, fuck all this shit, I've had enough.
Sure.
Like that has happened, but like
I don't think that thought ever goes away, right?
I don't think it does. Like that little.
That's why, like, I don't care how long you're clean and sober for. At the end of the day, there are like life isn't always rainbows and sunshine.
No.
And for people like us that are addicts, and you know, there are going to be those times where it's like, fuck it, maybe I should just get high because it seems better than dealing with the reality, right? Fortunately enough, like that's where, like, as long as we have the support group and we have, like, you know, the people to go to and the places to go to talk about these things, we don't have to pick up. For me, it's always when we hold that thought and like we fantasize about it. That's when the relapse process starts.
Yeah.
Is when I want to get high, but I don't tell nobody that I want to get high. Even the simple things like sitting back and I don't know, like if you've been sick before in recovery, right? But like I've had that moment where I was sick and like I was throwing up, and I remember looking at my girlfriend and telling her like, after all these years of not having heroin in my system, throwing up still gives me that euphoria recall, and like I still feel like that. And I was like, as shitty as this sounds, like that would probably be alright. And then she's like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, no, I'm not saying let's go get a bag of dope. I'm saying like I need to be honest about this. Like, I'm a call member of my support group, but still,
Feelings are real, man.
yeah, like we don't talk enough about them.
No, because like you'll just be sitting there and all of a sudden anything can just pop in your mind, or a memory or a thought or a picture or a photo or a video, and like, man, you can really grab onto like the visualization and like the romance of like, oh man, listen, drugs were not completely all bad, because I had some times that were like, I don't care. Looking back, I'm like, that shit was fucking awesome. Like, dude.
I always tell people I hate that saying in the program of recovery, right, where people will be like, my best day using is still not as good as my worst day in recovery, and I just look at them like, well, maybe you weren't getting high right. Yeah. Because I had some really good times, you know what I mean? Like if we're honest with ourselves.
Yeah, I wasn't.
You know what I mean? Like it always starts out great. It's not till like we end up in the pits of hell that we realize like, oh, this isn't so good anymore.
And then there's too many more times.
Then it's hard to get out.
And there's less times of like that shit was off the chain.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember being 19 years old and partying with the guys from Jackass at Woodward Skate Park, like up from where I'm from. Like, that shit was legendary. Like, I do not care. Like that, like, it was a good time. I might have woke up like 2 days later, but like a little headache or something. Then I just went about my day like it was like
Sure.
Like it was a journey of like coolness. There was drugs involved, but like those weren't that bad. Now there was a lot of bad times, and looking back after my mind's cleared, and like, what the fuck did I really do? Like,
well, we have those good times and those good moments, but what we don't talk about is like the fact that we're selfish, we're self-centered, we're hurting people. I don't care about anybody's life. Like, we don't care about our so-called friends even. We're like, yeah, fuck you. What can you do for me? So like we got all those shit going on, but like we don't see it because it's like, oh, I'm having a good time, but like we don't see the damage that we're doing. Like, you know what I mean?
My one sponsor said, he goes, you always have those times where you can see like you had a good time in your addiction. He's like, but you got to remember how fast you're falling down to hell. He's like, don't be glimpses of light. They don't pop through that fall down. I'm like, that makes absolute sense. He goes, always remember that those good times were just those nice flashes on the way down to the pits of hell. And I'm like, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
He goes, I'm like, I always say that to him. I'm like, why did I have this all of a sudden desire? I just don't want to get fucking high. And he's like, that's why. He goes, you realize that like those glimpses, they were what they were. They're gone. They can never be again. Cause like it's just gonna go. Like, no, I'm good. Like I've had some shit in the last 5 years, but like anything that I've gone through has always made me stronger, or have become the person that I've become, to where the point where I have houses myself, and I actually own the house that I landed in. It was a shit show, and I lived there. Like I have a couple of people that live upstairs, but like, to actually accomplish that and look back, I'm just like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, I was just this little guy that was like, like I was still out to try to, like, Oxford House, and I remember I just got done going through chemo, and like everyone was like, oh, he's getting high. I'm like, no, motherfucker, yeah, I'm getting high on chemotherapy, dude. Yeah, I dropped 40 pounds in 3 months. Yeah, dude. Let me tell you, like, dude, trust me. But like, I can remember at that exact same time, like it was an Oxford House, and like nobody would come up drug test still, and then Patrick died. and it was like the first time I've actually like got close to someone sober, like where that actual real emotions were involved more than just that's my boy, that's my buddy, that's no, like we got close, we talked, and when he died, dude, I can remember it was the same week I looked at the guy that owned the house. I was like, I'm buying this house right now. This is what I'm offering you. He came back the next day. And believe it or not, I just got off the phone. They're like, well, you're cancer free now. We just got the test results back. I'm like, no cancer. Ralph walks in, slaps down a contract. And I'm like, guess I'm going to start running recovery houses. Okay. Because, like, my mission was, like, I don't ever want to see someone go through what I went through. But then part of me is like, if I wouldn't went through what I went through, I wouldn't be good at what I do. Yeah. I wouldn't have that harder, that, like, education, in a sense. Like, like, I wouldn't be where I wouldn't be if I didn't go through what I didn't go through.
Right. I mean, and you got to be hard, right? Like at the end of the day, too, like, you know, you can coddle the addict and bury them. Or, like, I can hurt your feelings and save your life, you know. And, like, that's the reality of it. Like, a lot of people I know that watch, I get a lot of parents that watch this and will call me. I've had people's parents call me. It's crazy. They'll call me through Facebook Messenger. And they'll be like, you know, so-and-so's doing this and they're doing this. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, maybe we should stop coddling them. And, you know, and like, and I can't tell you how many conversations I've had to have with people where I'm like, listen, you're killing your son. You're killing him because you're preventing them from hitting that bottom. Because, like, I don't care who you are. And, like, rock bottom is what you make it. Like, at any moment you can say, you know what, I'm at the bottom. I don't want to go any further. And for some of us, it's like we got to go even further. But, you know, I believe everybody believes that they want to do better, right?
I do.
I think what we see a lot of, what both of us see is like where they believe it and they try it, but life shows up and things start going a different direction, and rather than like, oh, let me figure this out with people, it's I got to get this on my own because like I got to and then they're back to, you know, using whatever drug or alcohol they feel necessary, and they're like, I don't know where I fucked up. And it's like, well, you didn't open up, you didn't talk about it, you didn't
call somebody.
Yeah, you didn't call somebody, and like that sounds so stupid, right? I don't know if you remember, because God, I do. I remember sitting in rehab when they said, well, just call somebody. I'm like, fucking who? I'm like, I've been calling people. Like,
they don't answer. They don't text back.
And not only that, it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, I call these people and they always pick up, you know? Like, why would I call this guy? I don't know this guy. I'm going to call him and tell him, hey, I feel like sitting in a bathtub with a toaster today. And he's going to be like, oh, yeah, I got it. And sure enough, they do, right? But it sounds ridiculous. You know what I mean? So.
You got to find people with good, clean time. Like, real clean time.
Yeah.
Not the ones that are dressed up, that show up to meetings decked out in Versace and Jordans. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, no, stop, dude. Find the guys that are just...
I mean, in all fairness, everybody goes through that stage. You know how many times... Like, when you first get sober, I think everybody goes through that stage where it's like...
outside.
Yeah, where it's like, let me get the shoes to match the pants to match the shirt. And it's like, you know, it'll gotta match my hat. And then it's... You know, I gotta get all these people to look at me good and like I'm doing good, and it's like you're dying on the inside. But I think everybody goes through that phase in the beginning of
I think they do.
The grandiosity, you know what I mean? The egotistical, like, oh, look at me, you know. But what's kept you going for these 5 years though, right? Like so when you got through all this bullshit, right, and you're struggling, you're going through all this stuff. Like, in this 5 years, it's been a hell of a journey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what's got you going? Because you've lost people. Because you own a couple three-quarter houses.
Yeah.
Right? Which you said you decided to do that to try to help other people. But that's tough, right? So what keeps you going on that? Because even that, like, you lose people from time to time. And the headache.
I mean, I've had one overdose in 4 years. That's it. which it's not, that doesn't even rely on me, because like you can't control that. I
No,
don't care.
you can't.
If anyone that's ever ran a recovery house, been a house manager, they know that it's just out of our control. But like, drive. I drive, because like when I started my first house, I had people in the town that I started at, like they're big. They were like the original OGs, I guess you could say. But like, I was just some hot shot, cocky, blue mohawk, 90 piercings in my face, rocking my socks, and I didn't give a shit. I was pissed off. Like, I was pissed off, and I felt like King Kong. You know what I mean? Like, I just beat cancer, dude. Like, fuck this. Like, so I would stay up all night and, like, Google this and Google that, and, like, I can remember, like, before all this happened, like, I can remember walking in trying to get funding and got laughed at, because I was at the Oxford House, the Walker House. And it was the shit show of shit shows. Like, we were blacklisted, it was blacklisted for state parole. And I remember taking that house over, and it was like, like the other people that had multiple houses, Target and Walmart is not going to let Kmart come back to the game. They're going to try and stop it. And that's basically what it is in a sense. And it was in my mind, it was a healthy competition, because I would watch the other guys, and I would be like, oh, he's at this house. All right, well, I'm going to go back through all the houses and just check on everybody again. You know what I mean? Like, I can remember just being like, all right, kind of like a competition in my head. Like, I'm going to focus on what you do good. I'm going to watch from over here. And it doesn't matter what you say about me or what I do or, like, how I'm presented. As long as I continue to do the next right thing, educate myself, and make intelligent, like, steps to be not the same but be different. Because, like, I started the first co-ed houses on this side of the state. Like, I got a lot of shit for that for a while. But it works. And it really,
you still got a lot of shit about that.
I get shit for it.
Right? Because it's unheard of. Like, that is, like, something that... I guess it's not unheard of, but it's unheard of in our area, where it's like, what do you mean a co-ed house? Men and women living together early in recovery? That's crazy.
But,
right?
Like, you put stipulations, you put rules, and when they can't follow them rules, that's, like, the first red flag, and you got to be on them. You got to be on them. And, like, no one's ever heard of co-ed, but, all right, so how do you deal with the LGBTQ to make them feel more friendly? Like, I was reading all this stuff that's been done for years in California that's never been touched in Pennsylvania. Like, after that got going, then it was like, let's try the medical marijuana. Let's try a medical marijuana house and see how it works. But let's research, like, Colorado and Florida and in California again, and
which in our area you get a lot of flack for that too, right?
I have, but now one of the originals has a house that allows medical marijuana, and he's like, wow, it does work good. I'm like, you just gotta do it the right way. Like, if they can't follow simple rules and they can't follow your simple program, then that should be your first flag to keep an eye on them, because that's usually like, hey, you're not following guidelines, you gotta go. So it's not like I called them to ask them to come to my houses.
So let me play devil's advocate for those that are watching, right? Because I know some of these people, if I don't ask these questions, are going to get on me. They're going to message me, right? So with the medical marijuana, right, and we're watching this, how do we justify that being a part of recovery in a recovery house, right?
I mean,
it's a good question.
We don't buy it off the street. I mean, we got people that take Suboxone. We got people that take methadone. We got the shot. We got, Vivitrol. I mean, we can sit here and go on all these medications.
Sure.
I mean, there's laws like no flame the flower. You gotta use like vapes. You gotta keep it personal. I don't allow people to be like in the kitchens and the living rooms just pulling bong rips. Like, that's not legal. It's not in the state of Pennsylvania. You keep that shit in your room. Keep that shit to yourself. Buy it from the dispensary. I'm not playing this off the street shit.
Right.
Like, we go through rooms occasionally and like search stuff. I find a baggie of weed. I'm like, where's the container? I'm like, I'll just take it right to the freaking toilet and flush it. Like, sorry. Like, you gotta do it the right way. And like, my main question to anybody on any MIT, what's your end game? You plan on being on this the rest of your life? Because what's the difference between you being on this the rest of your life and just shooting dope? Like, I mean, okay.
See, I like that question. And
the dope might have fentanyl in it,
yeah.
But so is the weed you're probably buying off the street. Because I've seen people die from it that have never touched a drug in their life because their weed was laced with fentanyl because they got it off the street. I've seen this scenario play out. But like, if you're going to do something, do it the right way and have a real reason. Don't just be the guy in the house being like, I'm just going to smoke some weed and we're going to order DoorDash every day. I'm not going to do nothing. Like, how is this benefiting your life what is your purpose of using this, and what's your end game? What is your honest end game?
We talked a lot about this on season 1, right? Is the definition of recovery, right? Like, we have to define it, right? And everybody's recovery is different. Like, if MAT works, it works. I always like that question of like, what's the end game? What's the purpose? Like, I know when I talk to somebody who's like, I'm gonna go on MAT, right? I'm like, personally, I don't think it would be like, I don't agree with it because it's not the route that I went. But at the end of the day, like, I can't tell you that my way is right? So I'm willing to help you every step of the way. And I always ask them, like, tell me what is the reason, right? My favorite reason that I always get from people is, well, I'm going through cravings. I'm like, no shit, right? Like, no shit. Like, we're going through cravings because we haven't learned anything on how to deal with them. And one of the things I'll always say is, because I work in inpatient rehab, so like, I'll always say to people, like, you're gonna be here in a safe environment. Can you give me 14 days, just 2 weeks, where we can work on some coping skills and maybe learn a different way? After those 14 days, we can sit down and make an educated decision on if MAT is proper. But just walking through the door, I think a lot of times, because like you just said, I think a lot of times, and even families watching, we become so frustrated and we just don't know the answer of how to do things. And it's like, what do you mean? I can take this shot for 30 days and I can be okay? Or maybe just smoking weed will be fine. And, personally, I've buried a lot of people who've told me, hey, Tyler, I'm just going to go smoke a little weed, right? And then I have those that it works for, that, they smoke weed, they're fine. And same way with the other MATs, the Suboxones and whatever. And I think a lot of times, like, we hear people where they don't know, their families and everybody's just so fed up. It's like, well, this can give me a shot, right? And it's like, maybe it can. But can we do something different first? Can we try something different first, And personally, if we're going to be talking about MATs here, and I don't want to focus on this, but MATs, like, I do think Vivitrol is probably the best, safest one. But that's another story for another day. And I think we talked about that on season 1 with Sam a lot. So go back and watch that episode.
Please.
Right? But all right, man. So you're running these houses down there, doing good with them.
It's gotten to the point where I'm an addict, and I kept getting one more started after another, and it's gotten to a point where I've slowed down. Like, I'm not going to get any bigger, because, like, I like to stay personal. Like, some people have people that they have help run their houses. It's me and my girlfriend. Like, she's
which is huge.
She's amazing, and I don't give her enough credit for, like, what she does. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be where I was at in the recovery business if it wasn't for her at my side, and that's no joke. Like, I'm an addict, and I'm a human being, and I'm a man, and, like, sometimes my anger, like, comes out on her, and she just looks at me, she's like, feel better yet? I'm like, feel like an asshole, not a yell at you for no reason, and she's like, good. Now, go check all the houses. Shut up. But, like, the thing is, like, even with, like, touching back on MITs and stuff, like, do drugs discriminate? Why should recovery?
There you go.
Who are we to judge? Like, if you say you got your 5 years clean, you're clean. You know what I mean? Like, I see the whole controversy in, like, NA, like, oh, you're not clean. Like, okay, but is it prescribed by a doctor? Yeah. Okay, you're on Prozac, right? But you're not clean. And I've watched people just turn bright red with anger, like, how do you mean? You're on Prozac. It's a drug. But you're not clean. I got it. Yeah. All right. So what's the difference between his medical marijuana or his Suboxone? And that's, you know what I mean? Like, and, learning that and just kind of keeping my head down and just pushing forward to get to where I've been. Like, because, like, my grandfather always taught me growing up, like, to get what others don't have, you have to do what others won't.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, when I started some of these things, I just kept quoting, like, you know, Abraham Lincoln, like, the road to success is the road less traveled. And, like, I opened up some things. Do I approve, like, when people come fresh out of rehab, they do not go to a medical marijuana house. Like, they have to show me that they can go there and make these sound choices.
Yeah.
And, like, I've seen people make the bad choices, and I've been there to help them educate and watch them, like, okay, I'm good with the medical now. And, like, you know, I've seen that, and I've seen the ones that it starts with the medical marijuana, and 2 weeks later, they're smoking crack.
Well, you have to allow that, right? And that's the thing that we forget, I think, a lot of times is, like, because it gets so frustrating where, like, you watch people, and it's like, please stop. I know the road you're going to go. And, like, at the end of the day, you know, I always tell clients, like, I can sit down with you and I can clinically diagnose you. I can tell you what's wrong with you. But it doesn't matter if you don't see it. If I can't make you see it and then tell me what's wrong, I'm not doing my job. And, like, at the end of the day, like, you'll never believe me anyway. Because, like, why would you, right? So, you know, unfortunately, like, that's the hard part, is having to allow people to make those mistakes to see, like, okay, if you think this is going to work, show it, you know. But if you're not going to change the actions around it, it's not going to work, right? But that was the driving force for even starting this podcast was, you know, there's tons of roads to recovery if you can define what recovery looks like. Because recovery might be different to you versus me. Because our perceptions, right?
Yeah.
To me, like, man, I know a guy who he does the MAT, right? He goes to counseling. He doesn't feel comfortable in the programs of the 12-step programs, so he doesn't go. But he goes to counseling. You know, he has sole custody of his kids. He has a full-time job. He has a little house. He has a vehicle. And he's happy. When you see him, he's happy. He smiles, he jokes, he laughs. You know, he does these things. Who in the hell would I be, you know, if I was like, well, that's not recovery. That's not, like, da-da-da-da. No. Like, that's recovery to me, right? Like, you've changed your life, you've changed your behaviors. Because that's our addiction. Our addiction is our behaviors. You know what I mean? So it is hard to watching people fail when you know they could have prevented it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to their choices. Like, all I can do is step back, support, and hope that they are honest. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's my number one rule. Don't fucking lie to me. Like, I'm an addict too. Like, I get it, but I can't get you to, like, visualize or change or help support, because I can't change anybody. I can support the shit out of you and, like, be there for you, but I can't do that if you can't be honest. It's like my number one rule. Just don't fucking lie to me. I don't care if you rob a bank and show up at the house and you're, like, holding bags of money, but cops are around the corner. Dude, all right. So you might allegedly want to run through the back door, down through the bottom steps, out through the neighbor's backyard, up over the fence, and my keys are in the car. See you. You know, like, just saying. But, like, if you can't be honest, like, how can I help you? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, and that's what I tell guys too all the time is, like, you can lie to me, but I'm gonna help you based off of a lie.
Yeah.
So you're not getting help. All you're getting is bullshit. So if you can be honest with me, then I can help you. Because at the end of the day, in the hardest thing, and this was hard, I'm sure even for you, because it was for me, when I first walked into the program in recovery, was I got to tell you shit about me that nobody else knows, because, like, I got to be honest, and it's hard sometimes because we don't even want to be honest with ourselves.
No.
You know, denial. You know, don't even notice I'm lying.
I don't want to talk about my fears or, like,
no,
why I feel
but we have to.
inadequacy as a man. For a man to feel those things, no, that's not a man. A man doesn't talk about that.
Did you feel judged?
I didn't give a fuck.
See, I felt
really
judged.
Didn't care. Like, if you don't like me, whatever. Like, I had that image of, like, my mohawk was like my little.
Yeah.
It was like bright red. I had like 90. I had my socks up to here, and like, dude, if you didn't like me, fuck you.
I
Like,
felt
I'm
weird.
not here
See,
to like make you like me. And I had that attitude. I don't know if it was a fake attitude looking back or if it was actually real, but like I just didn't give a shit.
See, I didn't. I cared in the beginning, right? Because like I was like, whoa, you know, I don't want to let these people down. And you know what did it for me? And this sounds stupid. Is 8 Mile, right?
Yeah.
I watched that movie, and at the end of it, when he told everybody everything, and it was like, now tell him something about me,
They don't want
and
to
he
know.
didn't know, and he just walked away. I was like, that's the answer. That's the solution. I was like, that's the solution to all my problems. My solution is simple. If I'm just open and honest with you about everything, you can't say shit about me. And what does it, and then your opinion of me doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, like what you think of me is none of my business. You're talking about me and not to me. And if I just tell you all my shit now,
You can't do nothing to it.
you can't hold it against me, right? And like that movie, like the ending of that movie, like blew my mind when I first watched it. I was like, that shit was like revolutionary for me. I was like, there it is. That's the answer. You know?
I think I just finally got to the point where, like, with my childhood trauma and my addictive trauma, like, when I came out of this, like, I didn't give a fuck if you liked me. Like, I stopped worrying about the acceptance of people, especially with, like, the childhood trauma of, like, wanting to be accepted and wanting to feel safe.
Sure.
Like, when I made that decision, I was like, the drugs can't make me feel safe. Like, this can't make me feel good. Like, the only person that should even give a shit was me. And I think that was part of my decision, like, 5 years ago when I made it. Was like, the only person who needs to give a shit about you is you. Doesn't matter what your mom thinks. Doesn't matter what your dad thinks. Don't matter what your kids think. Because you done fucked all this shit up for 20-some years. Like, stop giving two fucking shits what other people think and just go do what you know you're capable of doing.
And that's hard.
That is
right?
hard.
So I give you a lot of credit for that, because like that's a hard thing to understand, because all of our life, well, I mean, I guess I can't say for everyone, but I know, like, you, for myself, and I'm sure people listening, and you know, I'm sure we can all relate to this, is there was always these people that were like, you ain't gonna be shit, you're never gonna be nothing, da 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 da. And like, I remember it wasn't even my first sponsor, like, he kind of taught me how to live life normal. But like, I spent some time in juvenile placement. And I had this old drill instructor, Colonel Moss, right? And he sat me down one time, and he was like, "You can do anything," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." And he was like, "No, I'm dead serious." I was like, "Yeah, me too." Like, "No, I can't." I was like, "I can't. Like, I'm not capable. Like, I'm gonna be on this path. Like, this is where I'm going. Look at where I'm at now. Like, I don't have no fucking shot, man." And he was like, "Well, that's because you believe that everybody told you couldn't do shit in life." You know, and like, he was the first person to sit me down and tell me like I could do anything I wanted to. I mean, like, I heard that from my grandparents and stuff, but him, it was just because he was that authority figure in an authority place. And I was like, maybe. And of course, like, I got out of juvie and started using drugs and stuff, but that voice still echoed. You know what I mean? Like, I can do something different. I don't have to do this. So, like, kudos for you for understanding that, right? Because not everybody does. Not everybody understands, like, you can do different.
I think we can chalk that up to my mom, my dad, my brother, and my nephew. Like, when I started getting clean, like, I didn't think I was ever going to have a relationship with a lot of people. Because, like, I fucked some shit up.
Yeah.
Like, definitely. But, like, I don't know. Like, that part of the clique where I don't give a fuck, I'm going to get high, turned into, I don't give a fuck what you think about me. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing back my socks. I'm rocking them. I don't care if you don't like my 900 different pairs of weirdness. That's just me.
Sure.
Like, and over time, like, I let some of, like, the brightness of, like, how I was, like, expressing myself. Like, I'm definitely not putting the mohawk back on. I'm definitely not going purple, blue, or red again. And all my piercings are pretty much out. But, like I think that was, like, my warrior coat. Like, I was just, this is me. I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't want to feel emotionally, like, pulled back down that I need to get high to feel accepted anymore. Like, I don't need to feel that feeling of, like, I don't know. I think just struggling with that shit that happened at such a young age, that like I don't know, something just clicked, and it has to do with this counselor Kendi that like she just sat me down and like I mean that girl broke me down like a shotgun in 2 sessions. Like I'm losing my shit, and then she looks at me and I'm like, oh, like kind of just play with this wall a little bit. I started just paper mache all kinds of shit. And she's like, that's pretty cool. She's like, there's a lot of wall. I'm like, well, I gotta go to group. She's like, no, you don't. And then, like I sat in her like huge room outside her office and just created this huge wall of Roxbury of like the death and pains and the darkness between the light and like life, and like dude, it was epic. She still has pictures, but like that woman like really broke me down and just made me go get creative. And she was the one in like she's like, drugs don't discriminate. She's like,
Yeah.
Why should you? And like I remember that, like
That's fucking awesome. I love hearing
like,
stories where people found art as their way out.
It was.
Yeah,
it was
I love hearing
this
stories like that.
And like I had to take 2 pieces down, and I've never heard a counselor stand up to me to like directors and owners of a rehab. Like she's calling him a cocksucker. She's like, that's fucking bullshit. Cause like I made like this needle dripping out off the top part of this thing with like the drips coming down and turning into the rain of like the gravestones of like all the people that were like in my little group that have lost someone. So I made a little tombstone, put their name up there when they died of an OD or whatever, and they made me take the needle down, and I'm like. Like, I got you, so I put a bottle of alcohol up there the next day. Well, that's got to come down. She's like, this kid is being creative and letting this shit all over my wall, and you want to tell him no? What are we really here for? And, like, to hear someone stand up for me for the first time, like, doing something healthy, and at first, like, it was kind of, like, hurt, like, here I am, like, not accepted, like, and, like, even, like, just being denied, like, funding back then, like, that just pissed me off. Like, fuck you, watch this. Like, you know what I mean? And then, like, got to the point where like like I just use what people like would try and put me down or go against me, like even the bigger people at one time, like we've all gotten along at this point now, which is kind of cool. Like I wasn't expecting like apologies or like working hand and foot with other people that like technically we it'd be kind of like Walmart working with Target, like that would be weird, right? But no, it's not like that. Like, and it's kind of cool to see like that come together. Like if you have this many houses and you're cool with, it's kind of weird, and you don't talk shit now. Like, no, I've never really talked too much shit on that person. Maybe with 1 or 2 individuals, but like in the long run, business wise, like when I talk to rehabs, it's like, yo, listen, this town where I'm from, Butler, has recovery unlocked. Like, there's so much like just beautiful people in recovery, and like this, just want to just want to hug it. You know what I mean? Like. You know what I mean? Like, I've met amazing people in my life in these last 5 years. You're one of them, man. Like, there's been times where I've called you on the phone just bitching about shit and being like, yeah, that's sometimes how it is. But, like, I didn't give up. I just got more pissed off and kept going at it, man. Like.
You got one of the only licenses, right?
There's
only a few people in the state of Pennsylvania with a licensed 3/4 house. So, like, that's huge.
And the great thing from all that emotional, like, fight and, like, just drive that I had going through, like I met a guy that he's my best friend. He's my brother from another mother, and I got to help him start his houses. Like, that's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, he went from being fired as a CRS to, it took me a little while, and like it actually didn't take me anything. Talking to him, he made the decision. He took the drive.
Well, he's ducking and dodging getting on here.
Huh?
He's ducking and dodging coming on here, so.
Oh, is he?
He is.
I guess CJ better get his ass on here then.
Yeah.
But like,
can't date my sister and not come on here.
Oh. But like, dude,
we're gonna have to revoke that card.
Like, yeah, I've done some crazy shit with people that I know haven't talked about some of the shit that we've done, and I hope none of us do talk about some of the shit we've gone through. But I got a friend that I can talk about all kinds of crazy shit. Like, there's been conversation with him, like, bro, you ain't gonna believe this shit from the day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what keeps me going? Like, man, someday I'm just gonna sit down and write a book with CJ and you, and I don't know, man, because like I can tell you some stories of like, but like that's no matter how crazy it gets or how insane it is at the time or stressful a little bit here. Like, I look back and I smile and be like, it was a good day. Like, it was a good fucking day. Like, and I didn't have to get high, and I didn't have to go pick up, and even if a thought crossed my mind, like, I've seen amazing people do amazing things in an individualized recovery path that, like, most people try and put them down, and I just look at them and like, you're gonna let them talk shit and make you feel bad about your recovery path. Fuck them. I got you. You know, like it is what it is. You know what I mean? But like, what doesn't tear us down just builds us up. You know what I mean? Like, I can fail 100 times, but until I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, I think of those positive quotes. They're all over my house. I'm kind of the guy that has like signs from the ceiling to the floor all over the place. Anybody who knows me knows, like, you walk in my house and there's like 9 million pictures and sayings all over the place. I mean, floor to ceiling, just every, like, kind of like, spiritual sayings and like beliefs and like just pretty cool artistic work and shit. Like I can remember just sitting in my office chair and be like, I'd focus on like one saying. I'm like, all right, how can I like materialize that in like what I'm going through or what today has offered? You know what I mean? Like, if people are out there who can't believe that they can get fucking sober and their life can't fucking change, I'm telling you right now, you can, because that was a shit show. Like dope, crack, meth, bath salts. Like, dude, I love bath salts. Like, you want to talk about losing your fucking mind? There you go. Like, dude, it's like recovery is possible. It's amazing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of the theme I'm going for this second season. So, we're about out of time here. I'm going to try to keep to a time format, too, on this season.
Time format.
So, at the end of the day, you guys could have been anywhere in the world. You chose to be here with us, and, that I appreciate. The whole theme of this season, as always, man, is I hope this helps you get through the day, because that's all we need. If we can just get through today sober, tomorrow's going to look better. So hopefully you heard something here today that will help you get just one more day where you don't have to stick a needle in your arm. You don't have to pick up a bottle of alcohol. You don't have to take that drink. You don't have to take that drug. Hopefully you can just get through today. And if not, if you're still struggling, please reach out, call somebody. I'm pretty accessible on Facebook. Can't promise you I'll get back to you immediately, but I will reach back out to you. He's accessible. Most everybody is.
Yeah, please.
Please reach out.
Share the shit out of this episode.
Yeah, share it. Like AT&T. Reach out and touch someone.
Yeah, reach out and touch someone.
All right, man.
Thank you for watching.